We've got 7 different stories to cover from 7 different media outlets. It's time for another episode of Regan's Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of Regan's Newsround, where I cover 7 different stories from 7 different media outlets from the UK for you guys. In roughly about an hour or so, we cover from several different stories here. We've got one with first from The Guardian, which is about gambling, a gambling issue. We're going to be looking at from Sky News on David Lammy's past criticism of Donald Trump. Tenants may not be able to buy new council homes from Angela Rayner. That is from the BBC. Trump's plans for US providers in the NHS could scupper hopes of a free trade deal. That is from the iNews. We're going to be looking at Kemi Badenoch slashes 2 points off Labour's lead in her first week as Tory leader, an exclusive poll there. We're going to be looking at a piece from the Financial Times about the government's exploring privately funded Birmingham-Manchester rail link. And then finally, we're going to be from Byline Times, we're going to be looking at the government's final delivery plan should be a watershed moment for ME and long COVID sufferers. That's all here from Regan's Newsround today. Things will be timestamped down below, but just for reference as well for people before we go. The date and time of this recording is on Friday the 8th of November at around 10 past 3 UK time. So let's start with the first one here. So, from The Guardian, the proportion of children in Great Britain with gambling problems has doubled, data reveals. So, the Gambling Commission figures show a shock rise to 85,000 in the number of young people suffering gambling harms. Now, I see, as somebody, I don't often go into these particular shops that you see in the picture here. I don't know. Obviously, the numbers are saying that they've been done, but for my mind, I've never seen it as this kind of gambling as a problem. But I guess maybe shows what I know, doesn't it? There must obviously be an issue here and a concern, especially if kids are throwing their money away on this. If kids are struggling, in some way, shape, or forms, and not finding other means to entertain themselves, and perhaps these arcade machines, but certain ones are okay, but obviously the 18 and above obviously is a big no for those ones. But it looks like that the government may need to come up with new methods and whatnot to try and drive kids away from them. But here's the other thing as well. I wouldn't just talk about arcade machines. I mean, even in video games, and someone who is a video game player myself, there are certain games where children are kind of encouraged or whatnot to buy certain like camos or something, like extra things that go with the game that encourages their parents to spend money on unnecessary things, shall we say. And they can get very addictive, that kind of stuff, especially if they could give given an unlimited credit card to spend children on them as well. So are we surprised by this? I don't think we should be surprised by these numbers, I suppose, really. But the question is, how do we deal with that? Well, I guess it comes down to one of the things that we always talk about is education. We need to teach children about how important it is to protect and look after your money, how important it is not to get hooked onto these things, and learning to cope and mediate the amount of time that you have on mediate your time as well. So there's a lot of ways that can be handled on this. But also, it's important, obviously, is how are the parents reacting? What are parents doing to counter this as well? Because obviously the parents have a role and responsibility of them while they're still underage. So there's a responsibility that needs to be had there from certain parents as well as to why 85,000 as the number of young people are suffering from gambling harms. So the proportion of young people in Great Britain with a gambling problem has more than doubled, according to astonishing official data that's prompted calls for an urgent government intervention. So new figures from the Gambling Commission, which regulates bookies, online casinos and the National Lottery, revealed a shock rise to 85,000 in the number of children classified as having a gambling problem under widely used diagnostic criteria. Nearly 1 in 10 reported that gambling by family members has caused problems at home, while there was an increase in the number who said that their own habits led them to lose sleep, skip school or miss homework. About a quarter, 27% of young people aged 11 to 17 said they had gambled using their own money in the past year. Wow. That's really terrible. And that's only those who are told there's only that's only ones that the statistics know about as well, because there's always numbers that you don't always know about as well. The majority placed on bets either on legal permitted activities such as seaside arcades or in informal settings such as among friends, but the survey found that there had been a significant increase since 2023 in the number of young people who had placed bets online, often using family members' accounts. Oh, that's not good. Overall, the proportion of young people in Britain with a gambling problem has more than doubled from 0.7% to 1.5% compared with 2023. The data found equivalent to about 85,000 children. That proportion rose to 1.7% among boys and 1.9% among all children aged 14 to 17, and as high as 3% for young people living in Scotland. That's really bad that's really bad. Ian Duncan-Smith, the MP for the former Conservative leader, said the figure was astonishing and called on Labour to stop dragging its feet on regulatory reform. He said, "We've been warning about this forever and it's getting worse. The gambling funds are completely out of control and it seems to be going after young people." Now, we also have to remember as well, I think it was on last Regan's Newsround actually, as we covered the story about potentially that they aren't being strong enough on the gambling funds because we believe that they have thrown a lot of money at certain Labour MPs, which is I believe that the MP, no, I'm thinking of a different MP. There's certain ones who are, there is a consensus obviously that there is links from the Labour Party to the gambling sector, and while they are trying to show a front face of them being tough on it, they're not really being tough enough, are they? I also think that's a bit unfair to say for me to say, because they have been in power for only a certain period. I think a year will help open up our eyes to how much they're doing. I know some people want me to be really hammer and tong on Labour, but I really want to see the change for the better of people, even though some people don't expect it. Duncan Smith, who co-chairs a cross-parliamentary group examining gambling harm, calls on Labour to revive and strengthen the previous government's white paper on gambling regulation published last year. The white paper, whose failure to address gambling advertising has drawn criticism, has been shelved since the last general election. The government still seems undecided about what they're going to do, said Duncan Smith. "We just want them to get on with it and tighten up the white paper," which it didn't go far enough. The report shows that they can't sit back on it. If we don't act now, it's going to get even worse. Labour, which has come under scrutiny over numerous personal and financial ties to the gambling sector, has so far been tight-lipped on its plans for reforming regulation and taxation of an industry that earns £11 billion a year from the British punters. Chancellor Rachel Reeves considered but ultimately rejected proposals to increase taxes on the industry to help plug a £22 billion shortfall in funds. Yeah, I think it was like £9 billion they could have raised from the gambling industry, something like that. I saw. The Gambling Commission report is based on the internationally recognised DVS-IV method, where children ask questions such as whether they gambled to escape problems or spent more than they wanted to. It found an increase in blaming gambling for late nights or missing schoolwork. About 6% said they had gambled on licensed products such as online bookies and that they had not legally permitted to access, up from 4% in 2023. This is thought to be down to adults allowing children to use family members' accounts, particularly boys placing bets on football. Will Proskiska, who leads the Coalition to End Gambling Acts, the CEGA, said it was no surprise considering the ongoing barrage of gambling ads that every child in the UK is forced to see almost every day of their lives. A spokesperson for the Betting and Gambling Council, the industry lobby group, said its members took a zero-tolerance approach to betting by children. The BGC said most children who gambled do so with friends on a legally permitted arcade machine, adding that it had striped age verification checks, unlike litigate gambling sites. Spokesperson said that we recognise the impact harmful gambling has on individuals and their families, and we absolutely committed to strengthening protections for those at risk, including young people. Ministers are currently considering the best available evidence, including the Gambling Commission's recent statistics, and the full range of gambling policy will be updated in due course. Well, it seems like just the normal rhetoric coming out of the spokesperson there, but considering this report, that's very concerning, especially for young people. We don't want young people getting driven down into that world. We really, really don't. But even more so is how I think they need to find ways to get around this, to make it more difficult for people to bet online. You know, that the gambling industry has so much influence. And the thing is that the worst thing is, especially because football is one of the biggest sports here, right? And they always had adverts during the halftime interval. Kids see that. Something needs to be done. You know, something more needs to be done. It's not just these down at the arcades. It's not. There needs to be more tighter regulations. Needs to be, and we need to teach kids that gambling is not good for you. I worry. I do worry. I feel like they do have too much of a grip on the Labour Party. But I hope I'm wrong, guys. I hope I'm wrong. We'll have to. Hopefully that that 3% rise in Scotland is also concerned as well. But I hopefully they will deal with that as well for the SNP there. The next one I've got for you guys is from Sky News. Now I have covered this story in a video, but this is on basically particular David Lammy really. So David Lammy said the past criticism of Trump's old news and the pair can find common ground. The Foreign Secretary said he recently had dinner with Donald Trump and described him as a very gracious host who offered him a second portion of chicken. Well, it was nice that he offered him a second portion of chicken considering what he called Donald Trump. But I know people are going to be like, Trump holds grudges and whatnot. I think, I don't know if he will hold grudges against politicians in the UK. I mean, he'll hold grudges against the mainstream media in America that's been against him. He may hold grudges against those in America who've been vehemently against him. But some people on the foreign stage, I'm not so sure. I know he said things about Keir Starmer privately already to try and undermine him. But whether he likes it or not, whether America likes it or not, they have to have a working relationship with the Labour government. We had a general election this year as well. So just going to have to put up with Labour for 4 years. Just like America's got to put up with Trump for 4 years because they voted for him as well. That's just the reality. So there is common ground there will be common ground between Labour and the Republican Party. Yes, is it going to be perfect? No, but it is in the interest of both Americans and for British people to find common grounds on things, and there will be common grounds on things. And people say things in the past, and you just gotta suck it up and move on. Like I don't know if David Lammy apologized to Trump. I don't know if Trump said anything to him. Things may have been said and it's just swept under the carpet potentially. We honestly don't know. But what we do know is that David Lammy and Keir Starmer had dinner with Donald Trump before he was even elected. Guys. So that tells you that Labour were ready for whatever outcome it was going to be. But I know the right wing are really trying really hard to press on David Lammy. I know he's not the best foreign secretary. I know of his criticism. I get that, but like, what are we going to do? Like, what's he going to do? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump. Please forgive me of my antics. Is that what you want? Like, get off. We all know what Trump is. So David Lammy is downplayed calling Donald Trump a neo-Nazi and insisted he can find common ground with the new president-elect. The Foreign Secretary said these remarks were made in 2018 were old news, and that at the time the most politicians had some pretty right things to say about the leader of the US. Mr. Lammy was speaking to the BBC's newscast podcast a day after Mr. Trump won the 2024 general election with a monumental political comeback. He revealed he recently had a meal with the incoming president and that he was a very gracious host. Mr. Lammy said, he did offer me a second portion of chicken. He was very generous, very gracious, very keen to make sure that we felt relaxed and comfortable in his surroundings. He was funny. He was warm about the UK, very warm about the royal family. And I got to tell you, he loves Scotland. I know the Scots love that. They're probably not. The cabinet minister added that Mr. Trump there did not even vaguely bring up his past comments. This includes Mr. Lammy said Trump is not only a woman-hating neo-Nazi sympathizing psychopath, but he's also a profound threat to the international order that has been the foundation of Western progress for so long. Lammy was a backbench MP in the opposition at that time, but now he is in the government with a job as the Foreign Secretary. He will have to work closely with Mr. Trump, posing awkward questions for him. Pressed on the consequences of his remark, Mr. Lammy said, "You don't get to be a senior politician in our country unless you can find common ground. Well, I'm well known in Westminster and I get along with folk, I just do." He added, "When you play as a backbencher, and what you do wearing the real duty of public office are two different things. Now I'm Foreign Secretary. There are things that I know now that I didn't know back then, and that's the truth of it." Mr. Lammy was also asked about the potential impact of Mr. Trump's policies on UK trade. Some experts have downplayed their forecast for growth, citing concerns over the possible proposals to put up tariffs. Asked if the UK could seek a special trade arrangement with the US and exempt them from that plan, Mr. Lammy said, "We will seek to ensure that we get access to the United States, and I believe that they would understand this, that hurting your closest allies cannot be for the medium or long-term interest." We'll have to wait and see on that. I am not holding much hope on that. I do believe that he will be more harsher on the European Union, the single market there, and China's market rather than the UK, but we will still be affected one way or another. I don't see us getting like a buy or any way, shape or form. Maybe. It'd be a long shot. I'll be quite surprised if that was turned out to be the case, but I really don't think that's going to happen. But I think David Lammy responded well with the questions and Rockmore, considering his past comments. Responded in the way that I think anyone should do. I know he's not perfect in any way, shape or form, like I said, but I think he responded pretty well considering. The next story I got for you guys is from the BBC. Tenants may not be able to buy new council homes, says Angela Rayner. So the Deputy Prime Minister has suggested that she wants to stop new council homes from England from being sold under the right to buy scheme. I'm all for rolling down the right to buy scheme. Many people, it's just not worked for many people. It's just not worked. And we need council homes. We do need more council homes. There is still a lot of work to do here now. I'm no expert when it comes to the housing market in any way, shape or form. What I do know is that Angela Rayner knows what it's like for people who have struggled in this area. And if there's someone there who understands this more than anyone, it will be her who has experienced this. So she's the one person in the Labour government that you think that can actually maybe get something done here. And if she does, even the next couple of years, builds the kind of homes that people want, and it becomes healthy and affordable for people, then I'm all for it. And obviously the controls that need to be done on landlords, because we have some of the most evil and vulgar landlords in England. Unfortunately, we also have a couple of evil ones in the Labour Party as well, as we've covered in the past as well. So Angela Rayner has told the BBC that the government would put restrictions on new social homes in England just so that we aren't losing that stock. For decades, the right to buy scheme has allowed social housing tenants to buy their homes, often at a significant discount. Ms Rayner said the country is facing a homelessness crisis, as she announced £10 billion to help rough sleepers get through the winter. Right to buy was introduced by Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government in the 1980s, and since then more than 2 million homes have been sold. The policy was initially credited with increasing rates of home ownership, but more recently has been blamed for contributing to the rise in homelessness. Labour has pledged to build the largest number of social and council homes since World War II. Ms Rayner told the BBC that she doesn't want those newly built properties leaving the system. We'll put restrictions on them so that they aren't losing those homes and we're not losing that stock. Ministers will launch a consultation on the issue later this year. The right to buy was relaunched in 2012 by the Conservative-led coalition government, which increased the discount a tenant could receive when buying their home. Currently stands at $102,400 across England, except in London, where it is at $136,400. Angela Rayner bought her own property through the right to buy scheme in 2007. And since coming to office, Labour has said the discount might be reduced to between $16,000 and $38,000, depending on location. Last month's budget saw the measures allowing local authorities to keep all the money they receive from council house sales, a policy the last Conservative government also followed for 2 years until March 2024. Previously, they had given a proportion of each sale to the Treasury. Right to buy was ended in Scotland in 2016, and in 2019, the Welsh government stopped the policy. Angela Rayner said England was facing a catastrophic emergency situation in relation to homelessness. Visiting a hostel for rough sleepers in South London, she met some of those who had been recently helped off the street. And the latest data shows that 4,780 people have been sleeping outside the city in the 3 months between June and September of this year, a record high. And this is just London. I had to check there. Stephen, 58, spent several weeks sleeping in gardens and woods before recently coming to the centre, an experienced chief, and he said a breakdown in family relations had cost him his home, and the costing of renting had prevented him from securing another property. Years ago, a room in somebody's house was called a lodger, he said. Now they're calling them ensuite rooms. They're charging £1,200 a bedroom for a month. Things are just too expensive. Deputy Prime Minister highlighted the 233 committed in the budget to tackle all forms of homelessness, bringing the total of amount of $1 billion in 2025-2026. The government has also pledged $10 million to tackle rough sleeping, which it says will go directly to councils in the highest need. The number of households living in temporary accommodation is at record levels, including more than 150,000 children. Acknowledging the problems won't be fixed overnight. Ms Rayner said tackling homelessness would need different government departments to work together. A crucial step is to reduce the number of people who have become homeless in the first place. Emma Haglig, the chief executive of a homeless charity, St Margot, says she was encouraged by the government's determination to push through the Renters' Rights Bill. The bill will end the Section 21 evictions in England, where landlords can ask tenants to leave without having to give a reason. We know that most people becoming homelessness are coming out of the private rented sector. And Section 21 evictions are a large driver of that. It's going to help dramatically, said Mrs. Hadid. Yeah. Section 21 it's just the way landlords are so evil. And the system is without doubt broken. And I hope she does get on top of it. I'm not. There was actually one point where I was actually considering getting involved in the right to buy scheme at one point in my life. Looked at it quite thoroughly, and in the end I decided not to and stick to where I was at the time. And I'm kind of glad in the end that I didn't, in hindsight. I just thinking like to hold to be held in such a way. I just don't think it would have been ideal for me and my partner in the situation we were. But there was the option there for us. In the end, I turned it down. Maybe in hindsight, some people might say, "Oh, it would have helped you." But I don't honestly know. To be fair, guys. What I do know is that if you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it, and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. If you guys want to financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by believing in a super chat. Or you can join YouTube membership for as little as 99p or $1.99 membership. You could do that as well. You could also buy me a coffee. Link is in for that. It's in the description. Or you can join me on Patreon. There's exclusive content available on there. Or you can join the Rumble page if you have access to Rumble, where I mainly cover what's happening in the Middle East. So you can check out all that stuff and more. Links for all of them are down in the description. So thank you to anyone who has financially support me anyway. But if you can't financially support me, just hitting that like button, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment makes a massive difference. So thank you to those who have done. Much appreciated. The next story we have is from iNews. So Donald Trump's plans for US providers in the National Healthcare Service could scupper hopes of a free trade deal. So Republicans' Project 2025 manifesto suggests opening up the NHS to foreign competition. Now, I think Labour will push back against this. I'm hoping Labour will I think Labour will push back against this. I could very well be wrong. I don't think Labour are going to push too much into the US here. But Trump has a bigger hand here. Now, if they do, obviously it'll be very worrying indeed. We don't want the NHS to be opened up. We don't want an insurance-based system here. And I do hope in the next year or two we do see the crisis in the NHS get reduced and gets under control. We keep hearing and banging on about the reforms needed to be made in the healthcare. How those reforms are going to come out, we don't know. But it needs to be done nonetheless. And we can only hope that that those reforms do not feature too much with the US. We know there are already connections with US firms in the National Healthcare Service. I know that. You don't need to tell me in the comments. I'm fully aware of that. Past documentations have said that. What we don't want is too much going in. As for any kind of trade deal, I've said this in another video and I'm going to say it here. There's not going to be a trade deal with the US. There's not going to be a trade deal with the US. That's just nonsense talk. Everything that Trump has been saying, there's been no indication. There's no indication from that I can think of any reason why they would want a trade deal with us right now. Just don't see it. So the NHS is likely to derail any chances of the UK opening up fresh talks on a free trade deal with the incoming Trump administration, the I understand. A Trump White House is expected to include health service in any potential negotiations on a free trade agreement with the UK, according to a document dubbed Trump's Blueprint for Power. Well, then no, then forget about the trade deal. That's it. You just say the NHS is not on the table. Fine, we don't need a trade. We want the trade deal. I was going to say we don't need a trade deal. No, we do want a trade deal, but there are. I don't put the NHS up for sale. I don't think Labour are that crazy, but if it was the Conservatives, yes, but maybe not Labour. Project 2025, which sparked widespread controversy in the US during the election campaign, states that the Trump administration will adopt a pre-existing model trade agreement that would open up the UK services to the US, including health. While Donald Trump to attempt to distance himself from the manifesto during the election race, the document was drawn up by several different officials from his first administration, including Project 2025 Director Paul Dance, who was Chief of Staff at the Office of Personal Management while Trump was President. Mr. Dance resigned from the project in July this year. According to the policy paper, the incoming US government should adopt a free trade template drawn up by policy leaders in the United States and the United Kingdom, including right-wing think tanks the Heritage Foundation and the Competitive Enterprise Institute. The template, which was developed under the previous Trump administration in 2018, states that health services are an area where both sides would benefit from openness to foreign competition, before adding, although we recognize any changes to existing regulations will be extremely controversial. Yeah, no shit, they'll be controversial. We don't want an insurance system. The Project 2025 document adds that adopting the template would greatly reduce negotiating costs, adding that it would also readily adaptable for agreements with Europe and any other allies that are willing to liberalise their economies to build a stronger alliance with America. Chancellor Rachel Reeves said in the summer that she wants to revive the UK-US trade talks. While prominent allies of the president-elect, including Robert Greenway, former deputy assistant to the president of Trump's National Security Council, have claimed a trade deal will be a priority for the incoming president. Yes or no? Do you think Labour will put the NHS up for sale? I still don't think they will. A free trade agreement with the US was long held up by Brexiteers as a big prize for leaving the European Union, but a series of UK administrations failed to make it a reality. On Wednesday, the new Tory leader Kemi Badenoch attempted to put pressure on the government to try and resurrect trade talks with the US, in which she said they were cancelled by the Biden administration. That they never got going. You're blaming Biden. You guys, what did you guys offer America? Sir Keir Starmer told the Commons that, of course, we will discuss issues of our economy with the President-elect, as we have already done. But any plans from the US to include the NHS in talks is likely to end hopes of negotiations resuming before they have even begun. Government sources told the Eye that it had no plans to open up the NHS to foreign competition. Back in 2019, an investigation by Channel 4 dispatches revealed that the trade talks between the Trump administration and Boris Johnson had discussed drug pricing to try and allow US pharmaceutical firms to charge the NHS more for their products. Campaigners have warned the government against these plans to put the health service on the table when it comes to trade talks. John Bosco Nawabo, lead campaigner at the public ownership campaign group We Own It, said there's absolutely no doubt that US healthcare corporations have long viewed our national healthcare service as a potential cash cow. Trump back in the White House and talking tough on trade deals with the UK, Keir Starmer needs to be clear that the NHS is off limits in any trade negotiations with the Trump administration. Let's hope he keeps to that. I really do hope he keeps to that. But yeah, of course we would want to trade deal with it, but I don't see any kind of trade deal coming along. Like, I really, really don't, guys. I know some people might think there's going to be a trade deal. I just do not see it personally. I personally don't. But maybe it will happen. Maybe it will. We'll have to wait and see, I suppose, guys, on that. But yeah, this whole Project 2025 thing. Yeah, not looking forward to that. Not looking forward to hearing what's going to happen to our friends across the pond. But we'll do everything we can to support Americans who are going to suffer as a result of it in any way we can. So, guys, we've got a couple more articles here on Regan's Newsround. What I normally do is break the ice a little bit here with a funny video. And this one literally just dropped in the last like 10, 15 minutes before I started recording for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this funny video. It's from the Exploding Heads here. It's the UK-US special relationship under Donald Trump. Hope you guys enjoy.
Minister, you've called him on record a fascist, a demagogue, and a dangerous madman.
I did, yes, but that was before he got into power. Now he's leader of the most powerful country in the world. We're prepared to stand shoulder to shoulder in the hope that he doesn't hurt us.
It is a special relationship between the two nations, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes. And how does a relationship work? By doing what the stronger partner says out of fear. Yes, we strongly believe that if we say nice things to him now he's been elected, then he will definitely uphold the special relationship and we'll be right there alongside him in everything he does. If he is Jabba the Hutt, then we hope to lead the world in taking the role of the giggling monkey thing.
Which of his policies will you stand shoulder to shoulder with him on?
All of them, even the ones that directly contradict each other. Whatever it takes, whether it's hating Mexicans, starting a war with Lithuania, or complaining about the new season of The Apprentice, we stand shoulder to shoulder with him on any random thought that pops into his addled mind during his 4 a.m. bowel movement. Let this be a prosperous new alliance where we agree to everything, no matter how baffling. Look, we're not in the EU anymore. We'll take whatever friends we can get.
Ah, dear. Yeah, everything's turned. Now we've all got to stand up and be nice to him. We must be very, very nice to him. Don't say anything that will antagonize him. Don't do anything to upset him, guys. Don't do anything. Oh, dear, guys. Oh, God. 4 years. 4 whole years of this, guys. And perhaps even longer. The next article I got for you guys is an exclusive from the Independent. Now, like I say, with polls, they're always taken with a pinch of salt. But it is one nonetheless. So, Kemi Badenoch slashes 2 points off the Labour's lead in her first 2 weeks as Tory leader. The latest weekly tracker poll by Tetchy UK suggests that Kemi Badenoch has already made an impressive impression with voters. Well, here's the thing. And this, you should be like, I know some people might think, they're definitely not going to get back into power, but she's not Rishi Sunak. Some people may not know anything about her. You have to also understand that, well, people who are into politics, the naysayers who know about her, there will be people on the street who don't know a lot about her, who don't know anything, and they will just look at her and they'll think, oh, this is different, a black woman. This will come straight into their head, and that will appeal to some people. So I wouldn't call this a slam dunk in any way, shape or form that, Conservatives are going to be, they've got no chance at the next general election. I would say never say never. Lots can happen in the next 4 years. Labour may not get the things that they want to get done. Kemi Badenoch may say things that will appeal to the voters. They may even appeal to reform voters. Time will tell, obviously. But it is very early days into her leadership. And we'll have to see over time what exactly they're going to be offering to the British public, because at the moment all they're saying is Labour are making things worse, Labour are terrible, Labour are this, Labour are that. Well, we'll see over time, but people haven't forgotten the 14 years just yet, so I think that's really important to add as well. So Kemi Badenoch has cut into Sir Keir Starmer's poll lead in her first week as Conservative Party leader, closing the gap by 2 points. The Tetchy UK, that a weekly tracker poll for the Independent, has revealed in the week since she took over from Rishi Sunak that Ms Badenoch has increased the Conservative support to 1 point to 25%, while Labour has fallen a point to 29%, reducing the gap from 6 points to 4. It comes in a difficult week for Sir Keir Starmer's government, with continued anger over the £40 billion of tax rises from the government, particularly the farmland inheritance tax rate, and increasing in employers' contribution to national insurance. Yeah, both those things Labour, the Conservatives can definitely capitalise on. In the reduction in Labour's lead, we'll see as an early personal boost for Miss Badenoch, who was praised for having a strong first showing at Prime Minister's Questions on Wednesday, skewing secure on his minister's past attacks on Donald Trump as the world digests his election victory in America. She has not had a perfect start with questions over a social media rape joke, and she has made before she was an MP, which remained on her Facebook page, adding that the US election has overshadowed her first week in charge. The poll offers less good news for Nigel Farage, who received no extra bounce from his friend and ally in the US, taking back the White House. Reform UK have stuck remained on 18%, although still a long way higher than their election showing of 14%. So Ed Davey's attacks on Mr. Trump failed to impress enough voters to see support for the Lib Dems hold firm, with their share dropping to a point to 13%. The Greens remained unchanged on 7%. Despite the poll boost, data in the polling of 1,632 voters over Wednesday and Thursday this week suggested that Ms Badenoch has a long way to go to turn her party's fortunes around. Labour still lead in every age category under 45, while the Conservatives will lead older voters, remaining 4 points with 65 to 64-year-olds, where Tories have made huge gains amongst pensioners after Chancellor Rachel Reeves cancelled winter fuel payments, with Ms Badenoch holding a 12-point lead in this category. Support for both Labour and Tories appears to be not holding firm from the election, with around a quarter of their supporters in July abandoning both parties. But one sign of hope for Ms Badenoch is that the confidence in the government continues to fall, dropping a point to 31% this week. Like I said, do take polls with a pinch of salt, and I don't think we can I don't think we could take these it's too early to take these seriously. Like any poll trackers and whatnot, like they just give a point in time of what some people are thinking right here, right now. Give some early indications, but how it does over time obviously will be interesting. As time goes on, we'll see how people will appeal, if they appeal back to the Conservative Party or not, if they find Kemi Badenoch appealing to them by what she says. There is definitely a sense that she is trying to be a bit like Farage, a bit like a Trumpian, to try and show that kind of appeal. Whether it works or not, time will tell. But she hasn't got the full support of the Conservative Party. It was the lowest members voted in the last round of the leadership contest. So there is still a lot of convincing. To do. So it is a very interesting shadow cabinet that she is building up. She's built up as well. It is interesting to see Mel Stride and Priti Patel there at Prime Minister's Questions. I will say that. But yeah, we'll have to see over the next couple of weeks, because the thing is, we want to hear what they're going to. People who don't want to vote Labour but feel that their vote is wasted on other parties want to know, well, what are the Conservatives going to offer me? Is what people will want to know over time. They're not really giving an answer to that right now. That's the only thing. The next article I've got for you guys is one from the Financial Times. To be fair, this is one that really should not surprise some of us, I suppose. So the government explores privately funded Birmingham-Manchester rail link. So mayors argue that the new train line is needed after the northern leg of HS2 was axed on cost grounds. And I 100% agree with this. I've talked about this, and others have talked about how important it is to improve the infrastructure in the north of England. Obviously, Rachel Reeves set aside some money for certain rail links up the north, as well as some for the completion of the last part, some bits of HS2 as well. It definitely needs to be done. The transport needs to be done, and there definitely needs to be links there. But it looks like they're looking at trying to get some privately funded money into this, which doesn't surprise me, because they don't really want everything to come out of taxpayers' expenses, if I'm honest. So this is not really a headline that surprises me too much, but let's read into it either way. So proposals for a newly funded rail link connecting Birmingham with Manchester are perfectly viable to explore, the Transport Secretary Louise Haigh said for the first time. We're working with Andy Budham and with Richard Partner, she said on Thursday, referring to the mayors of Greater Manchester and the West Midlands. We're assessing the options, including the potential for private finance, which look perfectly viable to explore. The proposals for the line, which could run along a similar route to the axed northern leg of HS2, were first published in September by Budham and Parker. A study carried out on behalf on their behalf concluded that without new rail lines, the already congested West Coast transport corridor would collapse within a decade. Yeah, that's not good. But despite support for the idea in partners of governments, ministers have been previously tight-lipped about the plans. Yeah, because it all comes down to cost. Analysts by businesses including ARP and MACE suggest a new line is needed in the absence of HS2's northern leg, which was axed by the last government due to cost overruns on the southern phase of the high-speed rail project. I've said this before and I've said this again. HS2 should have started in the north, should never have started in London. Should never, ever, ever have started in London. Started in the north. It should have made sense to have started it in the north. He argued that the new route could provide more cheaply using a lower specification and a form of public-private partnership. Haig was speaking during a visit to Greater Manchester with the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, where they committed to upgrades of the Trans-Pennine route, a decade-long electrification project which is already well underway. As well as the Birmingham-Manchester proposals, Burnham is also working with his counterpart in Liverpool and Steve Rotherham on plans for a new rail line between the two cities. Asked whether east-west links in the north were more of a priority than the west coast, Haig and Reeves confirmed that this was the case, citing the Labour manifesto. The manifesto promises to improve rail connectivity across the north of England. However, it remains unclear whether the Labour government will match a £17 billion funding commitment to the Liverpool to Manchester project pledged by the last government. Haig acknowledged that ministers were under huge amounts of pressure to start investing in new infrastructure. The previous government went round pointing at marginal constituencies and announced projects in very random ways, she said. We want to make sure it's done in a strategic way that supports the economy as a whole. All major transport investments are being considered as part of a government's new 10-year national infrastructure strategy. Haig added, the plan is currently in development and are not expected until the spring. Yeah, so there's still obviously more details to iron out, but it obviously looks like they're looking at options perhaps going from private funding, but obviously if it's going to be privately funded, they will want a return in investment of some sorts as well. My fear is that a lot of taxpayer money will also be wasted in doing so as well. I do think that there will be some public investment with a private investment if they were to get it, but I'm all for this Birmingham-Manchester rail link. It definitely needs to be done. There needs to be more infrastructure. I've said it before and I've said it again, and hopefully the investment will be there in the end for them. It's like everything, guys, because we've had 14 years of Conservatives, things are going to take time again. It's a case of whether they are going to keep to it. If they don't keep to it, then obviously then we can throw the book at them. But yeah, I know. So the last there we go. So the last story I've got for you guys here is from Byline Times, and it's a very important one. So the headline is, the government's final delivery plan should be a watershed moment for ME and long COVID sufferers. The long awarded plan for ME and chronic fatal fatigue syndrome sufferers is due to be published this winter. So this report that's going to be coming, or may even come out by the time you guys hear this, is about those who have been suffering as a direct result of actions from long COVID. Some of them who have not been given the treatment or help that they've been needed. Obviously, the National Healthcare Service was overwhelmed during the pandemic as well. Many people have suffered, and many have just not been given the support and the help that they need. And it's a very dark shame, and a one of shame that politicians and governments should hang their heads in. And the thing is that for all the suffering that people have gone through throughout COVID, there's no accountability. No accountability from politicians at all. No one's going to go to jail. No one's going to face criminal charges. You might get some apologies, maybe, from some people, but that's about it. And I know it's not right in any way, shape or form, but that's the system we have. And yeah, it's a shit system, I know. So this winter, the government will publish the final delivery plan for ME/CFS, a chronic fatigue syndrome, in an ambitious project that has the potential to be a watershed moment for Britain's 250,000 ME sufferers and offer hope with those with long COVID. The shortcomings of ME care recently made headlines following the inquest into the death of Maeve Bowlby O'Neill, who died of malnutrition in October 2021, despite writing to her GP for help, while long COVID remains an ongoing issue as the COVID inquiry continues. Both illnesses present challenges in diagnosis and public perception, as well as the pursuit of funding for living support via the Personal Independent Payment, the PIP system. Although the whole system may change may be a popular concept among new officials, the reality of multi-agency plans dealing with such a complex condition as ME presents a gauntlet of challenges that will likely be worked in silos and phases, exposing the risk of not meeting sufferers' need in the short or mid-term. Spokesperson for the Department of Health and Social Care, the DGSC, confirmed to Byline Times the plans would likely be published this winter and said it will focus on boosting research, improving attitudes and education, and bettering the lives of people with this deliberate disease. Adding that the DHSC is committed to improving the care and support of all those affected by ME. The final plan will be based on an interim delivery plan initiated by the Conservative government in 2022 and developed in consultation with people with ME carers, medical professionals, the DWP, the DFE, NHS England, and UK Clinical Research Council, and many other charitable bodies and groups. The interim acknowledges the historical low levels of funding research into ME, proposes a series of rapid actions to improve scopes of research, education, attitudes, and statutory support. Although some of these actions have been met, including the new NHS online training module, anecdotal evidence about misrepresentation and system neglect shared with charities as the media suggests, and that an accelerated push will be needed to improve quality of life for sufferers in the short to mid-term. Many people in the ME community are not hopeful about the prospects of new research, including Anna, a 42-year-old academic. They say, we put this money into research, we found something new, and you don't feel like you can get excited. You can't invest each time. Audley Sherwood, CEO of Long COVID SOS, affirms the need for more research on both long COVID and ME. The two communities have similar challenges, fighting for a reconciliation being believed and a lack of research and treatment options, she told Byline Times. There is certainty and overlap between ME and long COVID. Research suggests between 40% and 60% of those with long COVID might fit the criteria for ME. Although the studies had limitations, many people with long COVID experiences the hallmark symptoms of ME, fatigue, POTS, and post-external symptoms exacerbation. Sorry if I mispronounce it. Long COVID sufferers, former A&E Dr. Harriet, has been gifted with a professional view of research into her own deliberating condition. There's a difference between naive hope, which I harbour to a degree, and realistic expectations which have been in the system for a while. There's research and trials going on into the causes, but it feels like a long time to sit and do nothing, she says. Anna and Harriet have comparable views of what the impact of any pain for sufferers of fatigue and PEM, that's post-external malaise, should be. Both women agree education is key. Education is the key for pretty much anything, guys. The saying prejudge is that it's applied to people with disabilities, and people who don't work is applied to people with ME and long COVID, and they're just lazy, Harriet said, adding that the government doesn't seem to know much about disability. It's amazing how little the people who don't know about living with your condition. Hopefully this government will embrace that idea, and that if you support people, they can do amazing things. As suggested by the interim plan, online resources will form a core part of the final plan solution for a better education on ME. However, the importance of delivering these in consultation with the ME community shouldn't be underestimated. On reviewing the new NHS model offering ME awareness training, Anna says, maybe it's more useful if they manage to speak to people with ME and then ask them to talk on camera for 5 minutes about. This is an average day for me, as the illness interacts so individually that it's more than one broad story to tell. The root cause of poor aptitudes and scant living support is in part connected to the problems of diagnosis. If people don't know what it is, don't know what causes it, you don't know how to treat it, Anna explains. In this respect, COVID has the advantages of ME for those who have had tested, says Harriet. There is a clearer cause. You can say, I've had COVID and now I have this. But while long COVID may be easier for some consultants to recognise, the treatment is less established. Harry explains how treatment for long COVID could be variously led by a psychiatrist or a medical doctor, depending on which borough or county you reside in. For her, the process is a source of trauma. And as a doctor, to be told that the only way to refrain feeling in my lower body was to have a psychotherapy and CTB counselling by someone who didn't examine me properly really traumatised me. Emma's first assessment for Pip, which she characterised as atrocious, led to a tribunal with an 18-month wait time. The reason for the tribunal, in its simplest sense, was that I just didn't agree with their assessment of 0 points, Anna explained. So many of these cases are overturned at tribunal. I've heard 70% of those who take that step. Not everyone has the headspace or support or is able to advocate for themselves, though. The initial assessment form could be likened to a modern job application, in that it is points-based, and in Anna's view, a more punitive experience than its predecessor. Disability living allowance, she said. Pip feels more devastating in a way because it gets a point for this, and it's not for that, it's very categorical. A widely perceived failure in this initial assessment among both ME and long COVID communities is a sectional ability to complete tasks. Most people don't qualify for PIP because they are really ill, because there's a fluctuation there in what they can do each day, said Harriet. I qualify for PIP because I'm extreme. I meet the criteria of being able to walk less than 10 metres. I can't wash my hair, it's too heavy. I can't even do my bra because I can't feel my fingers. Most people are honest, but it's not assessed fairly. The problem, the system is shit in PIP because they don't have an expert examining them. They have some jockey doing the assessment for them who doesn't know a damn thing about medical stuff. It should be a doctor should be assessing them and a doctor making a conclusion for them, not some random dude who works for the benefit system or job centre or who makes this decision, who doesn't have a bloody clue about any of these medical issues that people have. That's the problem. They need to put experts in so the experts can make the judgment call and say, okay, this person has X, Y, and Z, so this person cannot do this, cannot do this, cannot do this. This person may be able to do this job, but this person definitely cannot do any jobs, and it's because of X, Y, and Z. Why can't we? There is this phrase of listen to the experts. Why is it so hard to not listen to the experts? A recent survey by the DWP showed that PIP to be the only benefit to which 0% fraud was detected, backing up Anna's logic that if they trusted you, you wouldn't find it easier to trust them, and it can change from policy changing. Despite promises for more research, the final delivery plan does present a window of opportunity for the whole system change. From research planning to attitudes to care provision, the change needed for ME sufferers could alter the DNA of the NHS to DWP and also offer hope for long COVID sufferers seeking similar support. And then I suggest it needs to be bigger than a cultural shift, not just some education in this particular place for this particular group of people. And the names of these interviewees have been changed for anonymously as well. She's absolutely right. I do hope that perhaps it does push the government into saying you need to change this culture. Because people have this stupid premise. There's a lot of people, a lot of dumb idiots in this country, in England in particular, who have this premise that people are sitting on benefits because they want to sit on benefits. No, people are sitting on benefits because they have no choice. There are people there the vast majority of people want to work, but there's also a vast majority of people who cannot work. There is a small minority of people who are on the benefit system who are doing it because they don't want to work. But the vast majority are. And it's so infuriating that they have to go through so many goddamn hoops just to get some kind of payment. And even then, yeah, they're still held up to the wall before they can get their first payment in. It's such an evil and cruel system. It's not fair on people. Government's supposed to look after people. That is the point of a government. That is the point of a state. That's why people vote for them, to take care of them, to look after them, to give them what the means that they need to live. And we don't have that. And we know that the Labour government have been aggressive in their tone because they're afraid about the Conservatives and the right wing coming after them, saying they're going easy, they're giving people all these money and benefits and whatnot. which is absolute bollocks. It's all bollocks, is what it is. Like I almost never hear a story about someone taking advantage of. I barely hear stories about, oh, this person's taking advantage of the benefit system. Like, I just barely hear it now. You know, I just hear people complaining about it on radio and whatnot. I don't give prime examples these days of it. What I hear is about people who are suffering and have their pips taken away because you can do this, or you can do this because you can talk to me, or you can walk a certain step, or you can use a computer, despite all the problems that they have. And they have no fucking idea what some of these people go through. I'm sorry, but it just infuriates me. It really, really does. And on that note, we are at the end of Regan's Newsround. But before we go, guys, I just have one final video for you guys. A classic from Jane Goodley, who sadly is no longer with us. Rest in peace. I hope she's cracking jokes up there cracking jokes upstairs. But this video I've got for you guys is her intimidating Nicola Sturgeon. This was about a year ago, so around the time that Trump was indicted, and Boris Johnson was roughly around this time kicked to the curb. Sorry, the video quality is not great, but I hope you guys find this funny either way.
What a fucking week it's been. I mean, that's Trump being indicted again, because you can't get enough charges on him. And then Boris, he's just been booted out the party and had to resign. Things always come in threes. That's me being arrested. I have been lifted. Oh, lifted. That's me. All we need now is Keir Starmer to be caught stealing out the Minaj, and that's everybody's bingo card full. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen next, but that's me arrested. Been in the cells. It's really interesting because they gave me a wee care package. I got myself some cheese dippers, which I really fucking like. I like a square crisp. They've taken all my jewellery off me and my high heels. That's my slingback's been remanded as well. Got a pen. Been doing some drawings on the prison wall. Done a big cock and balls. I mean, it's got to be done. We all do it. So I hope I'm all right for the third fortnight. I better be getting back out because me and all the Sanders have got the caravan booked. What a fucking week it's been.
Oh, JD, we miss you. Another classic one. I did say I would keep digging up some old ones of her, and I hope you guys found a laugh out of that. Because you need to have a bit of a laugh. We need to have a bit of a laugh, that is for sure, guys. So, guys, what did you think of some of the stories that we covered today? We covered gambling problems with young children in Great Britain from The Guardian. David Lammy's past criticism of Trump from Sky News. Angela Rayner about not being on tenants not being able to buy new council homes. Donald Trump and his Project 2025 manifesto trying to open up the National Healthcare Service from iNews. Kemi Badenoch and the poll that was made by The Independent there. The Financial Times with its government's exploring privately funded Birmingham-Manchester rail link. And then finally on those with long COVID and those suffering from ME from Byline Times. What did you guys think of all those stories and more? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. But before I head out, just one last thing. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here on this channel, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or you can join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.